Well, I mean, to your point too, I mean, a good example is you experienced it, right? You helped that young couple there buy a place. It had supposed to should have had 8 offers. It had no offers. Meanwhile, the next door neighbor had 8 offers the next day, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that was a definitely a different scenario than what we've been dealing with recently. And again, like we're going to definitely dive more into all of this, what's going on and how that affects the flip market as well. Pardon me, I'm just trying to fix my lighting here. Um, but yeah, it's been fun to be out there as an agent right now, for lack of a better word. It's definitely an interesting market to deal with.
yeah, patience is required. I mean, definitely a lot of anyone that's been through will know what I'm we're kind of sharing with you. It's not easy to purchase. It's a good time to be a seller, that's for sure. And hence, we need more listings. That's the problem. We don't have enough properties to sell. So if you're someone that's looking to liquidate, come talk to us after we're done here.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to we've been so busy that I haven't been following usually sports. Like I heard the Raptors are 500.
Yeah.
As if that meant much when you have these super teams that lose maybe two games a season.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
honestly,
then and then the Leafs are first place. I'm like, what? I didn't know that.
well, we all know that's not going to last. But just so everybody knows, I am a big Raptors fan as well. But I obviously support the teams here in our city. So yeah, it's nice to see that change of pace. And then yeah, I heard the Raptors have won 3 in a row and done it against some great teams. I think that I'm catching probably the last 30 seconds or so of each game to determine that. But yeah, it's a fun time.
They're still playing
Yeah.
out of Tampa.
Yeah, they're going to be there for the whole season. Um, they had an opportunity to at least make some really cool local city jerseys, kind of make some Tampa Bay Raptor jerseys. That would have been an interesting touch. But they're allowing fans in there and everything now, and the fans that are there are like happy the team's playing. At first, I think there was people booing the Raptors. Actually, I think at first they were booing the team, and now they're kind of getting behind it.
Because they're used to winning. They won Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
The Rays didn't win the World Series, but they went to the finals.
Hmm.
And sorry, I'm missing a team. Oh, and the Lightning won the Stanley Cup, right? So, it'd be nice if they could give that winning touch to the Raptors.
Yeah, I'd say it's working these last couple of games. We don't have our key players, and our young guys are getting at it, so that's great. Um, yeah, we're building up the crowd here as things develop, and like I said, we're probably gonna get started around it's 6:31 now, so maybe 6:35 sounds good, Tom, or what do you think?
Yeah, 3 minutes, and if you want to grab a drink, it's a good time to do that. You'll definitely learn a lot from the whole session, and got some prize giveaways too. So stay tuned.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as we're doing that, there's also the option to ask questions. Feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like to ask. We'll be happy to answer them at the end of the session today. Or if it's a really burning question, you might get an answer right on the spot.
Yeah. Does anyone know if the time changes this weekend or is it the following weekend?
I don't know what day it is anymore.
I know it's like the first weekend in March typically, and it so happens to be the 28th this weekend, something like that. So I only know that because I'm going for my first haircut on Saturday in 2 months. So
Sounds pretty nice about right now.
you didn't book anything yet, Eric?
No, because I get my haircut in Peel region.
You're something against Halton for your haircuts?
I just don't trust people that haven't cut my hair for the first time to cut my hair. I'm very specific about that. I have to say. Um, there's only been I think I've had about 3 people cut my hair in my life, and one of them was my brother Phil. Right. So then after that, I had to get a new hairstylist or barber, and she's very good. So it's kind of hard for me to waver away from her. Just like getting, good, like Rajesh can definitely add into this. Just like if you create a good bond and you get good service from your agent, it's kind of hard for you to waver away from that.
There's a plug for you.
That's sure.
I tried to sneak that in there.
I bet. Maybe we can get rolling, Eric.
I think
with
so.
with like the welcome and the agenda and
Yeah,
things like
for
that.
sure.
So that'll take a couple minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, guys, guys and gals, thank you so much for joining us. This is one of our favorite webinars, seminars that we run because we have such a great passion about it. And we've also gone ahead and we've included Rajesh this evening as our guest, who is as well one of our clients, but a professional flipper, somebody who actually was able to leave the industry that he was in to be able to join into this based on kind of the teachings that we're going to share with you today. So again, thanks for being here. If you wanted to grab something to drink, feel free to do so now. That's a good time for that. Put your phones on silent for the time being. You'll be able to take a little bit more of the information in. Like I mentioned before, we have the questions in our chat box. Feel free to ask anything you'd like to. We'll make sure that we try to answer it to the best of our abilities. And again, everybody's circumstances are very different. So everything is a case-by-case scenario here. Make sure that you consult your trusted professionals. So really, again, where we're starting off here, I kind of touched on this before, was what's going on in the market, kind of what is the impact of COVID-19. After that, we're going to go in from kind of Tom and how he got started in this industry and in flipping properties. What are the our 3 pillars to a very successful flip? And I mentioned again Rajesh, who was here for the evening to share his experiences and the firsthand knowledge. And then really, after you're interested in seeing what we have to offer you, we're going to give you a way to take some action towards the next steps of doing this yourself. We also have some upcoming events and a small conclusion. Like Tom mentioned as well, there's some surprises here that aren't on the list. So we hope that you stay tuned with us the whole way through.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Eric, and welcome everybody. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, Tom Powiewski, background, as you can tell by the long last name, Polish, born to Polish immigrant family. I graduated from Wilfrid Laurier University in 2005 in accounting, believe it or not. So I was back then a practicing accountant from 06 to 2011. And I bit the real estate bug in 2009. Started flipping and get involved in investing in properties. And sure enough, one thing led to another. I quit accounting, became a full-time realtor in 2011. Since then, so it's been 10 plus years, I've been involved in over 1,000 transactions, whether that is helping people move from A to B, traditional sort of residential real estate, to we do leases. We also help investors purchase and sell properties. So definitely we've experienced a lot in real estate and different types of transactions that take place. And last but not least, just from a personal side, my 2 passions are the Toronto Blue Jays and my 2 boys there, Nick and Alex. So what's happening in today's market? I always start off with this chart. This chart depicts the average price for a home on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Okay, so you'll see our story kind of starts in 2017. And there's a reason why I start here, but if anyone could recall, we saw that the market shot up 20, 30% in a matter of a couple months. It was so alarming that the government stepped in April of that year and announced something called the Fair Housing Plan, which included provisions such as a foreign buyer tax, and they also made mortgages, the stress test, a little more difficult for people to qualify. Once that was announced, the market, as you can see, or the prices of properties in the GTA slid by about 20–30% as well to where they started from. For the last number of years, you'll see that the prices have gradually increased, the way the market is supposed to behave. This green circle all the way to the very right, that represents 2020. Okay, and you'll see here that at first in the January and February, we saw that the prices started to behave similar to what we saw in 2017. This is then March and April where we experienced the first lockdown, and that took all the wind out of the sails. So all the buyers that were there, basically half of them left the market. We actually sold 50% less than we would have otherwise. And because of that, prices fell by about 5–10%. But sure enough, they rebounded pretty quickly. So once about June, May or so of 2020, when the economy started to open up and buyer confidence grew, we saw that they came back to the market. It also helped that interest rates dropped as well by a considerable amount. Sure enough, the market shot right back up. All those people that left here came back here. And you can see that V-shaped recovery. And now you see it kind of taper off because that's essentially the demand and supply kind of leveling off. Sure enough, in the last couple months, I'd say we have seen a market hit new levels, which I'll share on the next slide. So this is a chart that depicts January 2021 and compares it to January of 2020. We don't have February numbers yet, just because, again, February is not done yet, but we're pretty confident it's going to be similar in terms of the trends. So to the very right, what you're going to see is a few things jump out. First, the number of sales. Sales represents the number of buyers that have transacted. And you'll see that that jumped from 4,500 homes in January of 2020 to almost 7,000 homes in January of 2021, representing a 52% increase. So 52% more buyers than a year ago. Meanwhile, active listings fell marginally by 4%. So Economics 101 says if you have a lot more demand, but not as much supply, that causes prices to increase on average by 15%. Now we have markets within markets. What does that mean? We have, for example, freehold or home, semis, detached versus the condo market. They are different at the moment. In particular, we're seeing this trend where there's been this exodus from urban sort of condo lifestyle to buy a home, get some more green space, because people are generally working from home and they don't want to be necessarily confined to a condo. So, and hence we're seeing that trend. Now, that being said, because we've seen such a jump in prices in detached, anecdotally speaking, we are seeing that condos are starting to get involved in some bidding wars. Whereas before they were kind of slow and taking some time to sell, we've experienced firsthand that condos are being picked up. Again, for the reasons I mentioned, it's just the affordability. To give you an example, okay, so let me kind of give you an example how crazy this market is, okay? This is an example of a townhouse that was purchased in December of 2020, not 21. For 620 grand, okay? There's a townhouse, you can see it's just 2-story. And this particular investor actually closed on February, decided to sell it as is. Basically, not do any work, just sell it as is. Now, and we had 8 offers on this property, okay? Before I go to guessing what the price is and asking, let me just show you what it looked like inside, just for a second. Where's that? Just bear with me as I'm looking for that. Can you guys see that? It's like a house there. I just want to make sure I got the right screen. How much minutes does it have on it? Okay. All right, got some technical difficulties here. Let me go back. Sorry, can you see that, Eric, or no? Sorry. Eric, can you see that or no?
No, I think you have to choose the option to share your entire screen, and not just the window.
Not just the window. Okay, sorry. I don't know
No
why I'm having
problem.
trouble with it. I'm usually pretty decent at this.
Yeah, guys, we've been doing this for over 12 months now. Just to let you know, and this is probably the first technical hiccup we've ever had.
All right, I got it here, guys. I got it. Be patient. This is the townhouse. Don't mind the commentary.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Okay, so that was the townhouse there, guys. Now, so we had 8 offers on this property. Would someone like to guess what it sold for? And in fact, if you guess without going over, so Price is Right rules, um, you will get this lovely Amazon gift card. So feel free to guess in the chat box there.
Yeah, everybody feel free to chat. Type it into the chat box now. So far, Pravina said 920. Marco said 830. Whoa, okay, everybody's saying a lot. Sorry, that came fast. Dennis said 750. Boyana, I hope I didn't butcher the name. 1.2 million. You got 840, 625, 675. We got some good answers here, actually.
Okay. The answer is 690.
690.
690,000 for that townhouse. So again, just to put in perspective, purchased for 620 in December, sold 2 months later for 70 grand more, or about 10 plus percent. Okay. So that should give you an idea of how prices are changing. Eric, maybe you want to share some of your personal experiences before we get to the next section.
So the market is rapidly increasing right now to the point where 3 weeks ago, the same property would have sold for about $50,000 less when you're looking at the metrics of what's in front of you. The lack of inventory has really created a sense of desperation in the market, I guess you could say. So like Tom said before, if you're a seller at this time, you're doing really well. And there's still ways to obtain properties under market value and outside of MLS. You can look at myself as somebody who just did that recently, as well as Rajesh and Tom. There's ways that we can find these great deals to still make the sale really well after the flip, but it's a very aggressive market right now.
Absolutely. And sorry, I didn't announce the winner. Sky, congratulations. You are the lucky recipient of this Amazon gift card. So please do follow up with us. We'll try to look you up as well, but feel free to follow up.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I send out an email to you, Sky, if we don't hear from you. But yeah, congratulations. Great guess.
Awesome. Okay. So again, hopefully that gives you some context. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how I got started in flipping. So here's kind of my story. Was in 2005, I graduated from Laurier, as I mentioned. I was a chartered accountant. And when I was working, I realized my salary was not enough. So I was looking for ways to kind of get some extra income, some side hustles, because I noticed that like, even though I was making a decent salary, my taxes were pretty high, or at least taking more than I thought they should have. My personal expenses were taken away also. So how am I going to save and how am I going to grow my wealth? And so I got involved in flipping properties in March of 2009. My father actually was a realtor, and he picked up a property or introduced me a property that was for 117 grand in Mississauga. keep in mind, this is over 10 years ago, so there were properties for that price back then. And he said, you know what, why don't we do a joint venture? I'm gonna finance it and I want you to do all the work. I want you to get the contractors. I want you to get the materials. I want you to basically be the project manager on this, and we'll split everything 50-50. So I took him up on his offer. And sure enough, we flipped this townhouse to 170 grand, netted about 25,000, split that 50-50 within 3 months. And like I said, that was my first sort of experience. And then what I started doing, actually, I realized, you know what, if I can make a few bucks and still work full time, it was much better than even my bonus. So I would do maybe 3 or 4 a year, and let's say it was 10 to 20K or maybe more. You know, that started to add up pretty quickly, because what I realized is, like, flipping became, instead of hitting home runs, we'd hit single bases, and sometimes we hit home runs. But over time, you start accumulating some additional wealth on top of my salary. And I remember, I'm working full time still, guys, and making this as a side hustle. Sure enough, I fell in love with it, and in 2011, like I mentioned, became a full-time realtor. So this segment is going to talk more about the theory, and then we're going to jump into the practical with Rajesh. So I want to kind of go over kind of our approach, just so you understand kind of the, I would call it the fundamentals and basics of flipping. So what are the most important aspects when flipping a home? A lot of people get caught up in things such as, you know, the types of tiles, or the type, for example, the layouts perhaps, or whatever it may be. However, I've boiled it down to what I call the 3 pillars of a successful flip. The first is property, second, financing, and contractor. So what does property mean? These are the questions that typically get associated with the property. Am I getting a good deal? What can I sell it for? Will the property sell? What is the condition of the home? Are there any hidden defects? Is this a good neighborhood, right? Basically, does the opportunity make financial sense? Then we have financing, right? Obviously, how are you going to finance the home? But where are you going to get the money? How can I finance it? What will it cost me? Will I qualify? That all falls under financing. And then contractors, right? Who's going to do the work? Where am I going to find these people? Are they going to rip me off? Will they be on time? What are they going to charge me? Are they going to be late? And are they reliable, right? So when it boils down to these 3 pillars, if you're missing any of these, you have high risk of your flip turning into a flop, okay? Because if you, for example, purchase a home for too much, or you overestimate or you overestimate what you could sell it for, then you may lose money. But let's say you're financing, right? You find a great deal. It's amazing, but you have to act quickly. Very often, if your ducks are not in a row and you don't have the means to get the capital to do it, that opportunity will slip past you. With contractors, for example, if you have a contractor and they do sloppy work, it's going to reflect in the end price and then eventually when it sells. So kind of high level things to consider. So let's kind of break it down in terms of each pillar. First, property. What to look out for when buying a flip property. So location and area, why is that important? We want areas that are appreciating and not going downward, because while you're holding on to this property, we want it to kind of appreciate as you're holding on to it so that you're riding the wave. Makes sense. Then there's convenience. So if you are managing this project, do you want to be driving, let's say, an hour away or further to keep tabs on it? Ideally, you want something that's going to be convenient to your lifestyle and your schedule. Now you have different types of properties. You have freeholds versus condos. Freeholds generally have more hidden risks. So you'll have more chance of hidden defects, foundation, attic issues, things of that nature. I tend to personally have to budget more risk or hidden stuff with hidden items when it comes to freeholds. With a condo, now that could be a condo apartment, it could be a condo townhouse. Generally, I find that our budgets that we set at the beginning are pretty good. We generally don't have to overspend that because there's less hidden defects associated with it. A lot of the stuff is covered by the condo corporation. There are also some operational differences. So with a condo, it can be a little more bureaucratic. You may need to get approvals for the work that's being done by the board of directors. Whereas with a freehold, it's, again, less bureaucratic when it comes to that. Sometimes logistically makes more sense when you're trying to remove materials or get things inside, in and out of the house. Just depends on the nature of the property. Size and scope. So again, when it comes to like a freehold home, generally speaking, you're going to have a lot more to do. They're more expensive homes. They have a lot, let's say, windows, roofs. Again, it just depends on what you're able to tolerate and what you're comfortable with. And again, the scope of the work, whether, let's say, for example, you have cosmetic work, then you have more structural or mechanical. It can vary. And again, when you're looking at a property, you want to feel comfortable with the scope and the size that's involved. Your price and budget will dictate what kind of a home you're going to get. If you have a budget for $400,000, well, it's going to steer you in one direction. Chances are, if it's GTA, it's going to be a condo. If your budget's $1 million, well, now you can play in, obviously, the freehold market at that point. One thing that's really critical is seller motivation, because when you're picking up a property, oftentimes what's important is the purchase price that you pick it up for. And if that seller is motivated, so let's say they have some personal matters to attend to, they're willing to perhaps sell it at a price that's going to be more favorable to you. And that could include some of the items that are there that you can see listed in the bullet. What I like also are homes with issues. A lot of people are scared with homes with issues because they don't want to deal with the problems. But where there's problems, there's opportunity. So if you have a home that's in poor shape, depending on the degree, that may present itself an opportunity, because a lot of people can do painting, a lot of people. But is someone willing to do, let's say, electrical or mechanical? Maybe there could be like a whole roof replacement, something that's a little more intensive involved. Like what maybe you saw in that video that I showed earlier. Might be a little much for some, for others not. Status certificate, that applies to condos. We get some buildings and complexes that have issues, financial issues, and sometimes that might scare away other buyers, but it gives us an opportunity to pick up a property at a great price and deal with that issue. And then there's also some properties that are just difficult to sell. Keep in mind that banks won't finance just any property. If it doesn't have, for example, fixtures like a kitchen, a toilet, like sometimes we find these properties that have been in fires, for example, the bank's not going to finance it. So at that point, there's only a limited amount of buyers that have cash that can actually purchase. And then again, that's an opportunity. So again, these are just some examples of what to look out for. There's a saying that the trend is your friend. As I mentioned, you want to be buying homes that are in appreciating segments of the market, not just areas, but also, like I said, segments. So at the moment, we're seeing that the most growth and appreciation are in entry-level properties, such as townhomes, semis, and lower-priced detached. So while you're holding on to that property, chances are you're going to find a buyer pretty quickly, and also potentially a premium as you're holding it, what we call time value. So these are some of the trends that we're experiencing right now. We are personally focusing on a lot of townhomes, as I mentioned. I'd say semis, and we do dabble in the occasional detached. It just depends on the budget. Right now, average detached, you'll see here, I mean, this is September 2020, so this has even gone up. But you're looking at, like, in this case, 905, 1.1 million. Like, that's, a lot of dough for people. So again, you always have to assess that. Now, this is something I've always stressed to people, or at least I get this all the time. Is like, is this a good area, Tom? Is this a good area? And I have there's this myth called the bad area versus bad investments. I don't believe in bad areas. I just believe in bad investments. And the reason is you can buy a property in a good area but it's a bad investment because the numbers don't make sense. Meanwhile, you can buy a property in a so-called bad area, but actually it's a great investment because the numbers do make sense, okay? So I try to get people to kind of wrap their head around this mindset, because you'll see here, there's this poll here, it says Jane and Finch, right? That I think that's a fairly popular, people know about Jane and Finch, but I can tell you that we have flipped at Jane and Finch multiple times. And the reason being is that these are generally affordable areas that actually attract a lot of buyers, because it's hard to buy properties buy properties at a certain price range. So, and that hence why there's that attraction. So be open-minded. We're also focusing a lot on older areas. So areas that are established, because chances are they may be dated, they may need work. Whereas like some of the newer areas like Milton, they've been built up in the last 20 years. You're not gonna find too many opportunities, or not as many. The other thing too to consider are budgets. What I mean by that is like Toronto being very, very expensive for property versus other areas of the GTA would be less expensive. And then land transfer tax considerations. So when you're doing your calculations, remember that Toronto has double land transfer tax. So that will include Etobicoke, Scarborough, North York. All right, and when you're dealing with $1 million, that is a significant amount of land transfer tax. So something to keep in mind. Now, this is something, these buzzwords, power sale, bank sale, foreclosure. I get this all the time. People are like, hey, do you have any foreclosures? And people are mistaken to believe that they are all good deals. And the reality is some are and some aren't. Because here's one thing, guys, I've never known, banks don't like to lose money at the end of the day. Remember that. I've never seen the bank has never actually gave me money for free, at least not that I remember. So they don't want to lose money, so they're gonna try and sell that property for as much as possible. And actually, they're even legally obligated to prove to a court, in case they're challenged, that they did everything possible to sell for the highest price. At the end of the day, you want to do your due diligence. We have purchased bank sale foreclosures in the past, but my own experience tells me that I'd say half of them are good opportunities, the other half are not. So where do you find deals? That seems to be actually the number one problem right now, is where the heck do we find these properties? MLS is a good option. There are a lot of people that are looking on MLS, so it becomes really competitive, but that's one source. You can also look to real estate agents that have what we call exclusive listings. So these are properties that don't go on the MLS, but realtors keep them in their, we call them pocket listings or off-market opportunities. I've been approached by real estate agents that are looking to sell a property off market because they know what we do. So that's another avenue, and that comes from networking. Wholesalers, those are, let's call them private buyers that purchase properties off market, and they look to resell them to investors, and they make a fee essentially from that. And that comes from also networking and getting to know people. And there's the old-fashioned direct buy, friends and family, door knocking before COVID, but there are people that I know actively do go and try to find deals by going direct to the seller. Now about properties, ARV, what does that mean? After repair value. So how do you quantify what this property will be worth after you're done all your renovations? And we can do a whole segment on how to come up with values. And it really is more of an art than a science. However, I'm going to go through some of the key things that I look for personally. So I think most people will do what's called a comparable sales analysis. That's where they'll take properties that have sold in the area and compare them to their own property and make a judgment. Okay, I think this is what it's worth because that's what the neighbor has sold. However, this is where the art comes in and a bit of creativity. Sometimes there's tunnel vision, because sometimes you'll be looking at something, but you don't see the potential, or you don't really understand the area very well. I'll give you a great example. I had a client that had purchased a townhouse in a complex, for a certain price. Let's say, I can't remember the exact number, but it was, I think, about 200,000, okay, 200,000. And the highest sale in that complex was 280. However, so if you only looked at that, you say, yeah, 280, that's probably the max we can get out of it. Maybe a little more, but that's it. However, neighboring complexes, so literally just a stone's throw away, we're selling in the range of 320 and 330. So I had told this investor, I think that's what we can sell it for, 320, 330. When we listed it, the neighbors thought it was crazy, so trying to sell for 50 grand more than what anything else sold. But what they didn't know was that that's what the adjacent complexes were selling for. And we were able to achieve that price because we understood the market just a little bit better. As well, there are opportunities to add value beyond what the comparables suggest. So for example, if you're renovating and you renovate a step above what everyone else is renovating, you might be able to get a premium for that, right? And that's adding additional features to the property. It could be the quality of the finish, could be an extra bathroom, it could be an additional bedroom, it could be just adding, you know, a higher grade of cabinetry in the kitchen. As some examples here. You also have, for example, things like scenic views. So unique views people are willing to pay for, water, for example, exposure. There might be also opportunities to sever lots. If you know your area and know your zoning and a bit about how that works, that's an opportunity. Ultimately, you want to become an area expert. You want to know your area very well so you can spot a deal faster than other people. And you can identify, again, the opportunities. So back to Jane and Finch, because I love Jane and Finch. This is an example of one flip that we did on behalf of a client. We helped them purchase this condo at Jane and Finch for 215 grand. And you'll see here the closing costs for about 5,500, renovations 35,000, holding costs, so that includes like your interest, your maintenance fees, taxes, 5,300. Transaction costs, so it's like commissions, lawyers' fees, etc. All in 277,000 bucks. After renovation value was 310, so this investor netted about 31,000 in 3 months on top of their day job. Not too shabby. Meanwhile, you have this Mississauga detached property. Again, great neighborhood, but let's look at the numbers and see if it's a good investment. The purchase price is 890,000. Your closing cost is 16,000. Renovations 90,000. Holding costs close to, well, about 19,500. And then transaction costs, whoa, 62,000. All in $1,078,000. The potential to sell is about 1.1 million. So the net profit, and it takes longer to renovate, by the way, 6 months, almost 22,000. So when you compare 22 grand in 6 months, 31,000 in 3 months, which would you choose? Financing. So that's pillar number one, what we just talked about. So pillar number two, we're on financing. How much money do I need to start? This is something that's really popular. So let's take our Jane and Finch and the detached Mississauga home, for example. So Jane and Finch, this is what I'm gonna need as far as my capital is concerned. Again, it could change, but let's just go with a 20% down model. So here, on this 215 grand condo, I'll need $43,000 for my down payment, representing 20% of the purchase price. I'm also going to need my closing costs. That's my land transfer tax and my lawyer's fees, about 5,500 bucks. Then I need money, what we call working capital. So that's my reno and my carrying costs, about 37,000. So my total investment that I had to put in as an investor is about 85,000. The profit, as I mentioned, was about 30,000. So when you compare your return by dividing the profit by the investment, it's 35% in 3 months. When you annualize that over 12 months, that's 143%. Compare that to my Mississauga detached home, and this is what I was talking about earlier when you're selecting property, that often your budget will dictate the type of property you're able to get. But let's say we decided to pursue Mississauga detached home. $890,000 purchase price. I need a down payment of 20%, so that's 178 grand. My closing costs are 16,000. Reno and carrying costs. My working capital, 95K. So all in, I need 289,000. My profit, 22,000 in this case. Again, you take your profit divided by your investment, 7.6%. Because it took me 6 months, my annualized return is also lower at 15%. So this is there just to kind of help you understand the dynamics of how the financing works. So here's a popular question, I guess. Where do I get a loan? And here are some answers for you, some options. You can get through bank financing, and actually it's even lower than this now. It's probably about 1.7% if you qualify, upwards of 5%. Plus, you got to factor in that there may be a penalty with discharging that mortgage, depending upon the type of mortgage it is. Now, you want to put 20% down if you're going to get bank financing to avoid the CMHC fees. That's the insurance. Keep in mind, banks don't like financing flip properties. So if you tell them that, they probably will say no. But if you tell them that you're investing in real estate, then that's left to their imagination. But so little advice there.
Plans can always change, right? You can always decide
Yeah.
to sell it on the basis that you didn't like it when you moved in.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. So you can get one of those. Let's say you own an existing property. You can refinance that, take the equity out of there, and buy with essentially cash. And I personally love it. It's my favorite way, and because the interest rate is low, and it's just revolving. There's no penalties. It's a very, very flexible sort of form of financing. So it's another option. Then we have joint venture financing. So what does that mean? Is like, let's say for example, you've got the skill set, but you don't have the money, but you do have the know-how. So you can partner with someone that, for example, has the money, but doesn't have the time or the expertise, and you can do a 50-50 venture where you're gonna basically be the, what we call the sweat, the person putting the sweat and blood and tears into the project, and someone else is gonna provide the capital. And that's when you have like a nice synergy because one person has what the others don't. Where I see this not working as well is when there is no synergy. So a lot of people will like partner with a friend. They say, you know what, I'll put 50%, you put 50%, and then we'll also share the work 50-50, and we'll do everything else 50-50. There's no synergy to that because both of you have the same sort of contribution. You want to be able to contribute, or each person want to contribute what the other one doesn't in order to kind of reap the rewards of that joint venture relationship. Vendor take back, I don't see this too often, but this is where you can make an arrangement with the seller and say, you know what, could you finance this for me and I'll pay you basically interest each month. So they're basically financing the property for you, even though you own it. Where I find this is rare in the GTA. And then the other popular one we have is private financing. So instead of dealing with the bank, which can oftentimes be bureaucratic, they ask for a lot of information, you can get a private loan. And usually the interest is between 8 and 10% on a first, plus there could be an arrangement fee. But what you do need to have is some equity. You usually put down 15 or 20%, and basically the private lender will provide you with that financing. Now, a lot of people will say, you know what, Tom, 8 to 10%, that's huge. You know, that's so much more than what the banks charge. What is the advantage? One is getting the approval is a lot easier. And the thing is, when you do the math, you realize it's not as expensive when you're holding it for a short term. This is only for short-term basis. I would not recommend it for long term because it is quite expensive. But over the short run, if you do your math and numbers make sense, it is a good tool. And I'd say about half of our investors actually use that, and we do have a channel for it. So that's fine. That's financing. Moving on to pillar number 3, contractors. Who's going to do the work? So my number one rule is unless you are a contractor, do not become one. So unless you actually have a background in contracting by trade, you do not want to become one because it is a lot more work than you expect, okay? So I want that to be ingrained in each one of you. One other thing to keep in mind is there's something called the four key characteristics of a contractor. And what I've always found from my own personal experience, and again, no offense to any contractors, but it's hard to find everyone that's good at all 4 of these. So let's go ahead and review them. So you have costs, so how much are they going to charge? The quality and experience, timeliness, if they're going to be on time, and 4th, attitude, if they're a team player or not. And what I found is hard to get all 4 10 out of 10 for a contractor. Because chances are, let's say, for example, this person's got a great attitude, they're on time, and they provide you with awesome quality. Probably their cost is going to be a lot higher than your average contractor at the end of the day, okay? I have a contractor, for example, his cost is fair, his quality is great, his attitude, actually, he's a great team player, but the guy's notoriously late. But I know that going into it, so I always budget that into my whole calculation. So again, just something to keep in mind, that it's hard to find the perfect contractor. Where are you going to find them? The most popular means is referral, friends and family, your real estate agent or other professionals, or simply asking around. That's always been my favorite way of finding people. However, we've also found through other job sites that are near your property. So if you're ever on the street and you see guys working, you may want to say hello and introduce yourself and get their contact information at the same time. Scope out their work, see if it's good. Another way some people got creative is they would go to the Home Depot in the morning, see which contractors are there, and basically meet them there. And they found that if they're probably early risers, that they're, it's a good indication they're also good workers. I've used Kijiji in the past. You just want to screen them properly, which we'll talk in a second. There's also HomeStars and other websites that can be used. And this one's pretty good too, investor networks and clubs. So if you're part of like an investment network or a club, you can talk to other investors and get some recommendations. How do you find out if they're good? So what I typically do is I try to find out how involved the contractor is. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to, I'm on the phone with somebody and I want to see, okay, is this the person right fit for me? I'm always curious to understand how passive or how hands-on they are essentially with the job. So I always ask them open-ended questions, right? And what I'm really curious about usually is, like I said, is are they doing the work themselves? They have a team, or are they completely passive and they kind of just subcontract everything? Because right off the bat, I can tell you that if someone is subcontracting at everything, they're usually pretty expensive. So they're just overseeing the project. I look for the person that's more hands-on and has people that work with them, because usually their cost of their services is lower. So I'll ask them, how hands-on are you? And listen to their answer. How large is your team? Who does the work? Who performs electrical and plumbing work? I'm curious to know, are they doing it themselves? Are they actually getting, licensed guys? That's important. And do you have WSIB? So I try to stick to open-ended questions because you have to elaborate on the answer, right? You can't answer typically yes or no. And usually closed-ended questions, people will tell you the answer you want to hear. So these are some of the questions you want to ask them. What I'll also do is I'll prepare a detailed scope of work. So I'll try to arrange 3 or 4 guys to come in at once, usually spread them apart, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Get its scope of work prepared, so exactly what I want them to do, and I'll walk them through the house and spend maybe no more than 15 to 30 minutes. And I'll try to do it, like, again, on the same outing, so I don't have to make multiple trips, because time is very important. And then I'll have instructions on how they can submit their bid, and then ask them to also submit any references. But what I would say is always, when you're going to check their quote out, and then I would check out also their job sites and not rely on photos. Photos, the resolution can be hit and miss. But if you go to the actual site and check out their work, you get a pretty good indication on the quality. Okay. Things to look out for: are they following directions? Are they reading the scope of work? When they're submitting their bids, how detailed they come back with? Do they call you back, or do you have to keep on nagging them to get their quotes back to you? These are sort of things that I think are common sense, but you want to take in consideration on how responsive that contractor is and how well they're following instructions. So what you want to do is you want to have a contract ultimately that has a full scope of work, finishes, and details. And it's not for the purposes of the legalities around it, because you don't want to end up in a court one way or another. But what you want to do is you want to set the expectations up front and avoid miscommunication and issues. And so what you want to do is sit down and kind of review point by point each item, and if there's any ambiguity, clear it up so everyone knows they're on the same page. And what I also have included is cleaning, lawn, and snow maintenance, because I certainly don't want to be the one driving all the way to a property and start cutting grass or shoveling snow. Put that on the contractor's shoulders. And get copies of IDs and insurance. They usually require a deposit, and I try to do, depending on my relationship with them, less is better. If you're comfortable with someone, you may want to provide them with more. Again, it depends. You got to use your discretion with that one. As far as payments are concerned, I use an installment method. So based on percentage of completion, depending on what stage they're at, we'll pay on a percentage basis. Could be weekly, could be bi-weekly. It's something you set up, or it could be based on milestones. Once you're done the bathroom, you're going to get, let's say, 8,000. Then you have also holdback. So what I would suggest is before you are done checking everything, before everything is done, you want to always hold back 10% of the final contract amount. Because once that contractor has that money, it's going to be hard to get them back to do any sort of repairs or any sort of adjustments. And you only want to provide that final payment once the following is provided. So one thing is called a lien waiver signed. What does that mean? So let's say a contractor hired a electrician or plumber or another subordinate, and they did not pay that person. If that person doesn't get paid, they can put a lien on your property, and you as the owner are responsible, not the contractor, to clear that up. The lien waiver essentially is something that the general contractor will sign off and say, yes, I've paid everyone off, you have nothing to worry about. And you want to make sure all items are addressed and completed. So again, any sort of outstanding sort of items have been taken care of. I typically walk around with green tape and I start marking up things. And that way they know exactly what they need to take care of. And of course the key. You may want to consider also doing a home inspection before you're finished. So you can bring your own home inspector in there, do an independent inspection on the property or an audit, and you can give that report essentially to the contractor and say, hey, I want these items need to still be addressed. The advantage to that, aside from what I just mentioned earlier, is you can also give that report to a potential buyer and they feel more confident about the product that you're selling. So those are the three pillars. Again, it comes down to property, financing, and contractors. What is our approach? We keep it really simple. Let me explain what that means. So we take the approach of a full service solution from start to finish, where we're involved in helping acquire the property. We can help with the financing and also with the contractors. To kind of elaborate on that, we actually go out there and we find properties and we put them under contract, whereby all the terms are negotiated. So the price, the closing, and the deposit. And what we do is, because we found that it's hard sometimes for buyers to understand what a good deal is. So rather than me convincing somebody, if I think it's good, I put an offer on it, negotiate the terms, and then I'll take that to an investor and say, listen, I got this great deal. Here are the terms. What do you think? Yes or no? Very simple as far as that's concerned. It takes away a lot of the stress from having the buyer to decide on whether, on all the, basically on the terms of the contract. Then as far as financing is concerned, if someone needs financing, we have access to capital, private lenders that are willing to provide quick approvals, no credit, no income, no documents required whatsoever. You do need to have the down payment. And then contractors, if someone needs contractors, we can provide that investor with contractors that we've worked with in the past and know our specifications and our standards. And we assist with the documentation, meaning the contracts, the pricing, figure out the layouts, the color schemes, because we have this systematized to the point that an investor doesn't need to think about, should I go with this wall color or this floor? Should I go with this tile or that tile? We have basically a palette that's been used consistently so that there's very few mistakes made, and it's also very cost effective. So hopefully that kind of resonates with you as far as our approach is concerned. So that was the theory. I know there's a lot there, but let's kind of share with you our expert guest panelists here. Rajesh, he's here today to talk about his experiences flipping. So welcome, Rajesh, to our webinar.
Hey, Tom. Thanks, Tom, for having me here.
Yeah, it's always great seeing you and having you. Why don't you just maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
All right. So my name is Rajesh Ramsundar. I'm a real estate investor, flipper. Before getting into real estate investment and flipping property, I worked in IT as a software engineer for approximately 23 years. I got a computer engineering degree from University of London, England. In terms of passion, I love renovation and real estate investment. I got into renovation and real estate investment because I was always curious about it. And I started out with my own home. I had an unfinished basement and I wanted to finish it. So I gave it a try, and believe me, I learned a lot of stuff about it. And it helped me to understand the general aspect of renovation. In terms of passion, in terms of hobbies, I love the outdoor. I like boating, fishing. I like going up to the cottage in the summer. I like to ride ATV, trail riding. I also love our Toronto Raptors. I try to follow the game as much as I can, sport time. And I've been married for 26 years. I got 2 children, a boy and a girl. I've been living in the GTA for approximately 27 years.
Awesome. So Rajesh, curious, like, you had a great job, it sounds like, why did you start investing in real estate? Like, kind of tell us your story, how you got started in this whole business.
Yeah. It's funny that you asked that, Tom, because my story is very similar to yours, right? I mean, being in the IT industry, started out and spent a lot of time in there. I was looking for a way of making additional income. And in the old days, the company, we used to be rewarded like bonus and stock option and so on. And it used to subsidize that additional income. But after to stop doing that, I had to find a way of doing it. So what I decided to do is to start to look at real estate investment. So about 10 years ago, we purchased some rental property. We purchased 2 condos in Mississauga, and then we purchased 2 townhouses in Brampton. And we kept them for a period of time. And the value was appreciating, but the thing is, it was appreciating slower than what I wanted to be. So then I started asking myself, well, how can I do this and do it and make money quicker, right? And then I started dive into flipping property, and I started to look online to see how I can get some more information. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? I came across your seminar, and I was in one of your seminars similar to this, and I saw what you were saying, and it was very encouraging, right? And then I reached out to you, and we had a meeting, and then we talked about it, and you give me some more insight, and then I was basically ready to go into the flipping business.
And when did you flip your first property? How long ago was that?
2018, I think, is when we started the first flip.
But that was your first one, or did you
that
flip
wasn't
something
my
before
first one. 2009 is when I started it without knowing a lot. I was pretty much didn't know what I was getting into. I know that I want to do it, but I didn't have the right agent. I didn't have the knowledge about doing it. So I went into it, and I bought this property in Mississauga, a bungalow. I think it was for like 580 at that time, and I did all the renovation myself to save the money.
you became your own contractor. You broke rule number one.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistake on that one, and that flip turned out to be, I would say, a failure because I didn't have the right agent to guide me. When we were ready to sell it, we priced it too high, and what happened? I couldn't sell it. I ended up holding it for a year. Whatever profit I had made, it basically dissipated throughout that year. So that was 2009. So I walked away from flipping, and then I always had it in mind that, if I can do this right, if I got the right set of knowledge and the right set of people to work with and the right team, that I can do this. And that would inspire me to dig in more and to find out more about this here. And, after reaching you, we started out our first flip with you and me. We started out the first flip in 2018, I think. It was a condo in Mississauga.
Mm-hmm.
And it went well. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but we made some money in it. And I saw it as a way to continue, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I was doing my full-time IT work as well. Just a similar story like you. I was doing the IT full-time 9-to-5 job, and I was doing this flipping, and then.
Just curious, at what point did you decide? So, at what point did you say, you know what, I'm going to quit, my job and start doing this full-time? Like, what made you decide that, and when did that occur?
Yeah, well, one of the things that when I started out, I noticed it was easier to get a mortgage when you have a full-time job or a corporate job. The banks, they look at you much better than a self-employed person. And so that aspect of it makes me want to keep my IT job so I can get the mortgages easier.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I discover that you provided a private lending, I look at it as an opportunity to forget about the banks. I don't need them anymore, because that was the only thing that was keeping me into the IT jobs, right?
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
And then I think 2 or 3 properties in, I decided, you know what? I think flipping is much more rewarding financially, and I decided that I will just leave the IT job and go into flipping full time. And
so that was when? That was 2019 or the end of 2018?
At the end of 2018.
End of 2018.
Yeah.
So about 2 and a bit. So you've been doing this full time for over 2 years now.
Yes, over 2 years. Yeah.
Nice. So during that time frame, how many properties do you think you flipped?
I count a total of 12.
12 properties. Okay.
Yeah. 12,
and can you give the people here listening a range of what the returns have been, like net profit before tax?
Net profit before tax, it varies. You can make anything between 30 to 40. In some cases, you can go as much as 50. It all depends, right? But I would say the average return on most of these flips are between the 30 to 40 range.
30 to 40 range, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're doing, however many, I think, what was your goal for a year, just roughly, if you, your ideal goal in a year?
Yeah, I wanted to. Well, I started out a little bit slower, and then I noted. Then I figured that if I can do volume, then I can make much more return in this year. So I target 10.
10.
Yeah, I'd start at 10.
Nice.
Every year, I try to increase it a bit more. I try to make the process much easier. I try to improve efficiencies and stuff like that, so I could do more. And that's really my goal and my growth path.
To turn them over quicker. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, super. So let's let's get into a little bit more detail here. This is a specific example of one that you did in Kitchener. Why don't you just share with us a little bit about this home? Give us kind of the specs there. Tell us a little bit about it. All right, so we'll go
Uh,
through property financing and contracts, but let's start off with property.
the property itself, I saw it as an opportunity because it was a distressed property. It had a lot of cosmetic damages to it. For other investor, that's one thing that I want to mention: is cosmetic damages and so on. You can get very discouraged, but for me, I saw it as an opportunity, right? And also I noticed that there are lots of improvement can be made in this property. So when we started out this property, it was a 2-bedroom property with one bath. And when I looked at it, I did consult with you, Tom. This is normally what I do for the guys I'm on this webinar. If I don't have an idea how to go about doing the renovation, I normally will reach out to Tom and team to get some guidance. And I think we discussed it and we came up with a plan of from a 2-bedroom, make it to a 3-bedroom, and from a 1 washroom, added a next full washroom. So now we have a property is a 3-bedroom, 2 washrooms. So we increase the value of this property much more, right?
Sure.
And at the same time, it's more functional for a family to be in here.
Yeah,
And,
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it says here you purchased it for $396,000 in March of 2020. So this was in the middle of a lockdown. Did some people think you were crazy about buying a property right when they're shutting down the economy? What were your thoughts about that?
I I didn't get distracted by what was happening, as you said earlier in this presentation. When you're doing flip, you have to look at the potential of the property. You got to look at the numbers. You got to see what you're getting it for. You got to see what you can sell it for, and you got to know if you're making a good investment. That was that was this that draw me to it, and I didn't worry about the other stuff that was happening. I just focus and just get it done and get it out of there. And
That's some great advice. So I don't know if you caught that, everybody, but it's all about mindset here. It's, do you see problems or opportunities, right? In this case, we just saw
exactly.
an opportunity. But let's just see, I'm going to share with you the video of what he bought back in March of 2020 for 396K. So let me open this up for you. Hopefully I can do a better job of switching. All right, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah,
Tom,
I
but
can see
yeah.
it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Quite a bit damages. Yeah.
But this is how
Yeah.
you found it, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I looked at the hole in the drywall and so on, I said, well, that's just drywall. I know how much it costs to fix that. Like it didn't turn me off whatsoever, right? It's all running the numbers and see what needs to be done. And then, you do the calculation and roughly what needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm. Now we're heading to basement. Okay, let me switch back. Okay, so that was the property. Sorry, had to shut off the other screen. So that was the property pillar. Now let's talk about financing. How did you finance this property?
I did private financing through your team, Tom.
Okay, great. So 20% down. And then contractors, who did the work and kind of specifics around budget?
Yeah, I had I have a contractor that worked with me on an ongoing basis in several projects, and I had this contractor before from the first flip I did, and I've been working with him, and we've been trying to build a relationship from day one, and things are looking good. And that was a contractor that did the work for me, and the budget, as you said here, is about we looked at it around 50 to 55, and it was in budget. I think we were within the budget of it, and as you said, mentioned here, we put a new kitchen, new bath, new flooring, new pot lights, appliances, painting, new staircase, new windows as well, I think, in the basement.
That's right. Okay, so before we get into the numbers, let's just see what that budget of about 50K, let's see what it did for you. So let's have a look at the before and after. So as you can see there, the kitchen looks a lot better than what it was before. And I noticed that you went with like the grays here, you went with kind of like gray flooring. You've got the white cabinets, stainless steel appliances. It's a lot more brighter, as far as the palette is concerned. Same thing with this bedroom. I mean, completely different. Look, you fixed that hole in the wall, luckily.
Yep.
All right. Bathroom. This is the bathroom. I believe it was in the basement that you.
Basement. Yeah.
Yeah. So you installed that to increase the value. You mentioned that was one of your things that you wanted to do to kind of increase its value. Well, this room obviously doesn't look the same. It didn't even have drywall.
Yeah. This was one of the space that we add additional bedroom to. This is what we made it, the third bedroom this year.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You turned that into a bedroom on the main, correct?
Yeah.
Basement,
yeah.
You see pot lights in here. You mentioned the new windows, trim, gorgeous. Same thing with this bedroom and the living room. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, you didn't want to keep the red curtain there anymore. So, all right. So, so basically we listed this property to help you sell it after we were done, and listed for $525, and we had 2 offers. Now, again, for audience engagement, virtually this is really hard to do, so we're going to allow you to guess the price that this home sold for. Again, closest to, without going over, gets another Amazon gift card. Feel free to submit your number. Shoot.
All in the chat box.
You want to just rhyme those off, Eric? What are they? I see them.
565, 650, 680, 550, 560, 625, 977. Okay, that's specific. 535, 665, 590. I mean, we keep going here. So let's give everybody about another 30 seconds here to wrap this up.
Yeah, 30 seconds and
or less. We'll wait till we slow down here.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
The answer is 550. Who is our lucky winner, Eric? Who's closest to the pin without going over?
Geez, I got to go up to the top here. I think we did have a 550, but just give me a moment here. 660.
Price is Right rules. You could do $1, and you know.
Oh, Carrie chose 551. Sorry, Carrie.
That's where we get the music from. Price is Right when you land on the wrong. When you go over on the dollar, whatever the wheel is.
Yeah, exactly. Dun, 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 dun. So Mark is our lucky winner of this one. He actually guessed the sale price of 550.
All right, congratulations, Mark.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you, Mark, and we'll make sure that we get you that gift card.
Awesome. So yeah, 550 with 2 offers. Let's go through these numbers here. So you'll see the breakdown here. Rajesh was nice enough to break this down for us. Purchase price was $396. Gross profit before the expenses, which we'll go through in a second, $154,500. LTT, land transfer tax, $4,400. Renovation, so we went a little bit over the budget, $57K. Commissions here on the sale, about $21,700. Lawyers' fees on the purchase and the sale, $3,500. You'll notice that it says private lending. Private lending usually requires a little bit more because you have to pay for the lender's lawyer fees. So keep in mind there's a little bit of a premium there. And then you have a carrying cost. So that is your monthly mortgage interest payments. Those are your, your property taxes, utilities, things of that nature, right? So net, $52,670 in profit. Not bad, not bad. And how long did that take from the time you closed on the purchase to the time you closed on the sale? Roughly how long did that take, Rajesh?
I think that was 4 months.
4 months, okay. 4 months, perfect. So Rajesh, lessons learned. Tell us, maybe kind of wrap things up. Tell us what you kind of learned from being a full-time investor.
Always get a right property. That's something that I rely on your team to do. Do the numbers before you get into it. You can do it by yourself, or you can do it with you, Tom, and team. Just to make sure that you're going into something that you will succeed in. Don't be scared of seeing a property in a distressed state. You have to look beyond that. You have to, as I said again, it's all about looking at the numbers, look at the comps and see what you can sell it for, how much you got to go in, how much you have to put in, right? And that, to me, that's like my golden rule before I pick up something. Right. And it's been working pretty well for me so far.
What about this point? Don't over renovate to your own taste. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, this is just don't do things that you think it's beautiful and good for you. You have to think as an investor, and you have to think of the buyer as well. So what does this mean? I mean, that sometimes I have a beautiful room and I want to put like a nice fireplace in it. Or I want to put a big feature wall in it, but really, is that going to do any return? It's not. If it costs like $2,000, it's really, it's my personal taste. That's what I will do in my own home. But in a renovation project, it's not something that you probably want to do.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've seen that mistake being made by people, is that they think what they would do for themselves, but not understand that that's not what the marketplace requires. To get a certain price, and you may be overspending. So that's a great point there. Any other things you wanted to share with our audience?
Just to touch a little bit, and the contractors, make sure, as you said, get the right contractor. Make sure that you, in my books, I think building a good relationship with the guys that done your work, so that if you have to go back to them, it's easier to communicate with them. It's easier to understand how they work. Do walk through with them and build proper contract. make clear agreement, you know, with contractors, set clear expectation with contractors, let them know what you really want to get done and how you want to get done, and let them know also about quality, right? And you know, most of the
Perfect.
time, just check with you and the team and see if we're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
because I know that Tom, your team is vastly experienced in this year, and if I'm doing a project and I'm not sure, you know, I will call you up and ask you, what do you think about this? And in some cases, you will come over and even have a look and give me some advice. So use all the necessary, you know, resource that's available to you, and it will help.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
One thing you mentioned was relationships, and how important are relationships for you?
it is very important for me, because the better relationship you have with the contractor, the more the communication become easier. Like, you know, I'm at the point where my contractor will go in and he basically will know what exactly that I want him to do
Mm-hmm.
and how I want him to do. Now, if I didn't build a relationship and I go about taking on an ex contractor, then I got to do more work to figure out, as you said, you know, I got to interview the guy, I got to go check his work out. You know, you're making the process much more complicated that way. For me, I try to make everything that I do, I try to make it as efficient as possible so that I streamline the process. I mean, like, for example, the paint scheme for most of my reno, they're exactly the same. The kitchen style is exactly the same. You know, I try to keep a lot of constant in these flips so that it make life much easier.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. I'm glad you touched upon that, because I have noticed that relationships are really important for you, whether it is contractors or
I,
your other, let's say, stakeholders. Whether it's like working with myself, I've definitely noticed that you have that um, that I don't know, that ability to connect with people, right? Because it is a people business at the end of the day. And
exactly. Yeah.
so, lastly, what would you say to someone that like to get started in real estate investing, whether it's flipping, long-term rental, you name it? It's sitting on the fence, doesn't know where to start. What advice would you give them?
Get into it as soon as you can. It
Yesterday is
is,
the best
it
day,
is.
right?
Listen, the market condition is excellent. This is a proven business model. It's been around for a while. Um, I think that if you want to get into this business, you get that 20% with the renovation costs. You don't have to have millions of dollars to do this. You can start it out small, and you can grow your business. I can tell you one thing: Tom and his team is there, a one shop stop for everything. They will find you the property. They will help you finance it privately without any kind of headache, and then they will sell it for the best value, and make you money. So if you're in the fence and this is something that you want to do, I'll recommend you get into it as fast as you can, because I tell you what, if you wait for this opportunity, you're losing out basically. That train is going all the time, and if you're not on it, you're not going to get rewarded. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you, Rajesh. Appreciate those comments there, and thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. I think you've added a lot of value and just sharing your experiences. I think people can connect with real life examples, right? I can talk theory all day, but you know, it's all about real life examples, especially something you can connect with, right? I mean, that property, that's a Kitchener property. Everyone knows where Kitchener is.
Mm-hmm.
This is not HGTV, random, you know, home in Florida or something like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these are the markets that we tackle. So we're at the tail end, guys. We always like to provide value, and we hope you got value tonight. But we're always continuously providing value. And one of the things that we do is we do offer properties. So if, for example, you're looking for flip opportunities, we come across opportunities that we email out. And if you're interested in those opportunities, you simply type in deals, that's DEALS, as you can see in the green, into the chat box, and we'll gladly put you on our list. So any new opportunities that come up will be sent to you, okay? Now, the one thing I will say, and I'm sure Rajesh will agree, is the hardest thing right now, our biggest challenge between the three pillars is actually finding deals, finding property.
Correct.
Financing contractors, I'm gonna say it's easy, it's just easier, but finding good deals right now is definitely much more challenging than it has been in the past.
Yes, totally agree, Tom.
So
The
again,
market condition is definitely towards the seller end, as you said. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's just a lot of competition, a lot of buyers out there, so it's hard to find deals. But nonetheless, if you'd like to be a part of that, I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. You just simply type deals and we'll set you up. So another bonus opportunity is if you're a serious individual and you wanted to see a live project, see how it's done, we do have properties in the GTA that we can show you in person. We can show you it live exactly how it was done. So again, if that's something that you are interested in, feel free to reach out to us directly. We will share our contact information and we can set up a viewing of a property, discuss kind of the ins and outs. Right now, for example, we have a project in Toronto, Etobicoke. We got one in Mississauga. Most of it, I'd say, is in the West GTA predominantly. And those are, again, for viewing. Once we get a chance to speak with you, then we can figure out what makes most sense. But the point being is, this is a good opportunity for you to see it live. There's no cost, there's no obligation whatsoever.
Yeah, we've got quite a few people on this list, so I'll make sure that you guys all get everything you need to get started.
Great, thanks, Eric. And then we have our educational seminars, or webinars, I should call them, each month, different topic. So the next one in March will be how to be a smart real estate buyer. So the ins and outs of buying a property, what that involves, and some of the mistakes and how to avoid them. We'll also give you a market update. And then in April, this is the first time we're hosting this, it's going to be how to buy cottages and recreational property. So it's different from buying your Mississauga detached home or a condo in downtown Toronto. We're talking about properties in sort of rural areas. What are the differences there? What are the pitfalls and things to look out for? First time we're hosting this. This will be in April of 2021. We don't have a definitive date yet, but just to let you know that that will be upcoming in April. All right, Q&A for myself, Rajesh, and Eric. We welcome it, so please ask your questions, and there's also our contact information should you decide to reach us out directly. I highly encourage it. I don't bite, Eric doesn't bite either, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, right now we got two questions here. If you have a question, if you could please put it in the Q&A section, I'll make sure that I answer it. If it's in the chat, I'll grab it as well, but just it's kind of easier for me to see here, to be honest with you. So Praveen has actually asked, what areas are we currently doing flips for investors and what is the price range? I mean, it's a big area and a big price range. I can definitely tell you that much. We are focusing on areas kind of like Tom had mentioned before that are giving good returns, better returns. And it's not necessarily only the areas, it's the style of home as well.
Yeah, I would say like areas right now, we try to focus on starter markets under 700K predominantly. A lot of it is Mississauga, West GTA. I'm trying to think, we have Mississauga. We just did one in Hamilton. We got Burlington.
We got some in Brampton as well.
Brampton, thank you. Yeah, Etobicoke. So those are some of the, I'd say, the areas that we focus on predominantly. So,
we've been in Kitchener. Tom was just about to say, we've been in Kitchener, Cambridge, these areas as well. These areas are giving us those good returns and those starter homes. Because again, if you have a product and you create a product, you want to make sure that as many people as possible can buy it. So then you'll get the most amount of competition on it.
And I see the questions in the chat box, but Eric, if you want to shoot.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. So the next question here is it always 20% down plus private financing or down payment was from private financing?
Say it again, sorry?
I think the question is, can you get your down payment from private financing as well? Or do you have to always put 20% down?
The program that we have, you need to have some skin in the game. So typically it's about 20%. We don't offer this, but there are lenders that will do 100% financing, even with your working capital. Those rates expect them to be between 15 and 20% and a proven track record.
Awesome. And Mike asks, how did Rajesh find his deals? Rajesh, could you share some light on that?
Tom, find all the deals for me. It's simple. Yeah, no, Tom, he, as he mentioned earlier in the webinar, he go out and find the deals and he bring it to me. To be honest, I don't worry about it. When Tom asks me if I want something, I say yes, because I know he had done all the homework in it. I know that he already run the numbers. I'll run the numbers myself as well, but all the deals, I don't go out and look for deals. Put it that way. It's just Tom and team do it for me.
If I can expand on that, where do I find them? I guess is we'll use the MLS, and we'll put offers out there, right? I mean, we lose a lot on offers, but we get the occasional one that will get accepted. But it's all like it's all about the number of stones you unturn. Eventually, something will stick. But also just try and negotiate a better deal, or try to identify an opportunity that someone else didn't see. So MLS is one. We also buy from private sellers, wholesalers. There's agents that come to me directly and say, hey, I have something that my seller doesn't want to put on the MLS because they're embarrassed of it, or they don't want people coming through because of COVID. So yeah, we'll take it off their hands as long as the numbers make sense. Because we've been at this for a while, we know what we're looking for. At the same time, when you build a bit of a reputation for being able to be easy to work with and close deals and not be a tire kicker, you're going to get more people coming to you because you're making the process a lot easier.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And Rajesh, thank you for not praising me. I appreciate it. That's fine. It's all about Tom tonight, I guess. No,
Tom and team,
honestly,
right?
no, I hear you, Rajesh. I'm just joking around. Tom's got a real knack for finding these properties. Absolutely. And I think that it's something that's kind of ingrained from him from the time that he was 12 years old onwards, with his dad constantly wanting him to get into the business or get into real estate. This is a good question. I mean, Rajesh, how did you deal with your capital gains?
I have a company incorporated, and it's a small business. It's under a small business category. So I don't normally do capital gains. All my properties are done under the company. Yep. So I pay the small business tax, which is about 11 to 15%.
Yep. Well, like there you go. Like that's Rajesh's scenario that he's created for himself because he is incorporated. So that option is available there to you. So everything is case by case scenario. If you are to do, the flips like Rajesh does it almost as a full-time job, then you would need to be incorporated to make sure that you don't get hit with those nasty taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also incorporate, so I flip too.
Yep.
I can't flip every property, quite honestly, but I have a company that all the properties go under, and you qualify for, as long as it's set up properly, you can get the small business deduction where you're going to be paying about, I think it's 12% taxes, as long as that money's kept in the corp.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it was in your personal name, it depends, but it's probably in the range of like 30 to 50% otherwise.
Yep.
Absolutely. There was one more that I saw here as well. Dennis asks, when selling a flip home, is it best to sell it empty or staged?
You can go either or, I think. We do both. I think it depends on the budget. Stage can be quite expensive sometimes. We've kind of even gone doing virtual staging for some of our properties. It's a less expensive model, and it still gives the buyer the impression of what it could look like.
Yeah, it's a really good tool actually, because sometimes homes can take a little bit longer than others to sell, to get your return back, especially if you want to get the return that you're looking for out of a certain property. And if you stage it, then you're being, charged per week, per month, whatever it might be. If you virtually stage it, it's just a one-time payment, relatively inexpensive, and it's all covered. Simran asks, how many houses do you need to incorporate? So I guess really the question is, Tom, and Rajesh, like at what point did you see yourself, like at what number of flips per year did you see yourself doing before you thought about incorporating?
Per year, I'd say if you're doing more than one per year. I mean, that's what I would do.
Yep,
I think it's worth paying the $1,000 in legal charges, but then you have bookkeeping and you have annual taxes. But if you're only doing like this as a one-off thing, then it's probably not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like, some people feel like, well, if I get into this business, then I should get my real estate license as well. But if you're only going to flip one home every 5 years, then why are you going to spend all those fees to get the license just to save?
The real answer is consult your accountant. Don't take my advice. I'm not an accountant anymore. So
everyone's situation is completely unique, right? So, all right, I think that's all the questions actually that we have here, unless anybody wanted to sneak something in there at the end.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thanks everyone for being on this webinar. Like I said, feel free to join us for our next webinar in March and also April. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us as well. If you want to see some of our projects live, we're happy to showcase them to you so you can get a better idea of what this business is all about.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Rajesh, thank you for your attendance. Pivotal to do this evening with you, and Tom as well with your knowledge. Everybody, again, who took the time out of their day to join us, we really appreciate that, and we'll see you again next time.
Good night, guys.
All right. Good night.